Hello, everyone. Welcome to the World Tapping Circle. I'm your host, Sophia, and you are with me and some other technologically supportive people broadcasting to your pocket, to your home, to your life, some beautiful healing love. I'm so glad that you've taken the time to nourish yourself in this way. If you're live with us, as you know, I see people already chatting in. Give us a shout out. Let us know where you're logging in from. We love to see the size and shape and the variety of time zones and countries and people who are here holding this beautiful space. We have several hundred members, and it's so exciting to show up and get to connect with you all, even more now than ever before. I'm going to pop into the chat and say hello to a few people. Ruth O, she says, hello, dearest Sonya. Robin O, Lori V, Francine B in Canada, Julie S, Teresa in Albuquerque, Gregory V in Eureka, California, Christina L in Santa Rosa, Jennifer S in California, Adrian C, sending you love straight into Portland, where you're coming from. Jordan H in Wisconsin. Tina saying hello from Bali. Danielle in New Jersey. Julie S in Springfield, Oregon. Samadhi in Austin. All these beautiful people. Serena G in Santa Barbara. I'm loving seeing all of you chiming in. And I see Tara A near Brisbane, Australia. Wow. So many people holding this sacred space. So today's theme is, let's see, I wrote it down, time to tune in. Right? So maybe we're past the initial shock of everything that's been happening in the world, and we're starting to kind of groove in just a little bit. Maybe the haze is starting to lift, and we're starting to tune in a little bit more. So I want to help you process whatever's keeping you from being able to tune into what you need and how you feel, including fears around the future. I know that the future feels really unstable right now. We don't know how long things are going to last. We don't know what the outcome will be for ourselves, for our families, for our finances. So we're going to have some time to process those things that are keeping us from being able to deeply tune into ourselves and listen. And we're going to leave you in a place calm, at peace, connected, and more able to go deeper inside, which we're all being required to do, some of us by law, so that we can come out the other end of this thing, no matter how long it lasts, more clear, more calm, more stable, more connected, more whole, more aligned with what actually feels good to us, and rebuild the new world that we're bringing out of this incubation, taking ourselves into this new place collectively, deciding what kind of jobs we want to be working at, how we want the government to go, how we want to plant and seed for our futures. So you're seeing right now how much power is in the everyday person, right? Especially when we move collectively. So it's quite important for us to collectively release some of this terror and fear that is being bombarded towards us on the daily, and be able to process that out so that we can listen to what really matters and follow through on those instructions. All right. So we are going to continue to skip the core causes questions for now. I may return to them later, but right now it just seems like we need as much tapping time as possible. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. Actually, before we do that, I want you to take a peek into the chat. At the top of the chat, you'll see where it says handouts. If you have questions, we've made some little videos there to answer some commonly asked questions. For example, aftercare. How do I take care of myself after a session? I made you a little video and left it there for you. The tapping points are there. Technical support questions are there. So do realize that that is in the chat for you under handouts each session. All right, so the first thing I'd like you to do, rubbing the front of your chest, taking a few deep breaths, and tuning in right now to what has you bottlenecked inside. Where are you feeling super triggered or challenged? In other words, what's distracting you from your calm, centered, happy place? And you don't need to put that in the chat. I just want you to think about that for a second, because that's the first place we're going to start cleaning house. A couple of deep breaths, relaxing into your body and repeating after me. Even though a part of me is really worried about, and then fill in the blank for yourself about what's stressing you out right now. Tapping the eyebrows. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tapping the temples. Even though a part of me is really stressed out about, and say what it is. Tapping the cheeks. I'm open to loving and supporting myself. Tapping under the nose and breathing. Tapping under the lips. I give myself the possibility of learning how to process through all of this difficult stuff. Tapping the chest and breathing. Tapping down to the bottom of the front of the ribs, even though there's a part of me that feels kind of frantic right now. Big deep breath, tuning into what has you going. Say what it is. Tapping the side of the ribs. You can cross your arms like this, tapping the side seam of the body, or you can do the back of the knuckles. Tapping the inside of the wrist, this anxious feeling. Part of me is really concerned. Big deep breath. Tapping the side of the thumb, this anxious feeling. I don't know what's going to happen. Tapping the index finger. I accept the part of me that's uncomfortable with not knowing. Tapping the middle finger. I'm open to loving and accepting myself, even if my mind continues to try to figure out what's going to happen. Tapping the bottom of the fourth finger. I want to know when this is going to end. Let's say that 3 times. I want to know when this is going to end. I want to know when this is going to end. I want to know when this is going to end. Tapping the little finger. I accept the part of me that's not comfortable with not knowing. And let's just be kind to that part of ourselves. Tap the side of the hand that we might really be struggling. We're used to having a pretty good idea of how things are going to go. We usually know how our week is going to roll approximately. We've got plans. All of those have been canceled. We had so many ideas of how this month, this next few months was going to go. And now it's all up in the air. Tapping the top of the head. I'm open to loving and respecting myself, even though my mind wants to get things back to normal, to get back on schedule. Tap the eyebrows. I accept the part of me that's uncomfortable with change. Tapping the temples. And just for fun, let's stop arguing with reality for a minute. Okay? Tap the cheeks. Things are changing right now. Tapping under the nose and breathe. Tapping under the lips. So I want you to talk about what's changing for you. Tapping your chest. Take 30 seconds, blurt out all the things that are changing for you. Big deep breath. Tapping down to the front of the ribs. It's hard to accept all this change at once. Tapping the side of the ribs. Including what? What's the hardest thing to accept for you right now? Tapping the inside of the wrist. I accept the part of me that believes that by worrying about this, it's going to resolve things. Tapping the side of the thumb. And big deep breath. Tapping the index finger. I accept the part of me that's looking for answers and feels unsettled. Tapping the middle finger. Even though a part of me also feels, and this is where you get to describe how else you're feeling. Maybe you're grieving right now. Maybe you're in shock. Maybe you feel very angry or overwhelmed. So fill in the blank with how you're feeling. Pick the strongest negative feeling you have. And let's tap the bottom of the fourth finger. Even though I also feel really, and then say how you're feeling. And just accept it for now. Tap the little finger. I'm open to loving and honoring this feeling inside me. Tap the side of the hand. I release the judgment I have around this feeling. So just notice if you have a hard time accepting this feeling. Maybe you're judging it as too much, or you're judging it as not as bad as someone else's problem. I'm tapping the top of the head. I give myself permission to process what's true and real for me in this moment, including feelings of, and say what those feelings are that maybe you haven't had time to talk about. I'm tapping the eyebrows. I'm allowing myself, tap the temples, to honor this piece of me that I've had to suppress, chosen to hide, tap the cheeks, or just been out of touch with. Tapping under the nose and breathing. Tapping under the lips. These parts of me that I've had to repress. Tap the chest. Chosen to hide. Or just been out of touch with. Tap the front of the ribs. I accept the part of me that felt like I needed to hold back. Big deep breath. Just accepting this part of you that's been holding back. Maybe you're not wanting to stress someone else out. Maybe you're wanting to set a good example. Maybe You don't want to tell your friends that it's as rough because it's scary to feel vulnerable. Tap the side of the ribs. I love and support myself, even if part of me feels really vulnerable right now. Tapping the inside of the wrist. I give myself permission to be kind to myself. Tap the side of the thumb. To be honest with myself. Big deep breath. Tuning into those difficult fears or thoughts that you're having. Tap at the index finger. Let's talk about one of those thoughts. Maybe you keep hearing it run through your head, like, how am I going to survive this? Maybe literally survive it, or maybe it's financially survive it. Tap the middle finger. Big, deep, noisy breath. Let's say it together. How am I going to survive this? Let's say it 3 times. How am I going to survive this? How am I going to survive this? How are we going to survive this? Big deep breath. Tapping the bottom of the 4th finger. I give myself permission to accept the part of me that's really scared. Tap the little finger and breathe. I accept the part of me that's gotten grumpy, tired, irritable, frustrated. Tap the side of the hand. Grumpy, tired, irritable, frustrated. Tapping the top of the head, just giving yourself some compassion. As if we're all supposed to be happy and normal and stay on schedule. Well, things are changing so quickly out there. Tapping the eyebrows. I'm open to loving and accepting myself exactly where I actually am. Tapping the temples and breathing. Tapping the cheeks. I'm open to loving and accepting myself, even if I'm not doing as well as I'd like people to think. Tapping under the nose. I give myself permission, tapping under the lips, to notice where the stress is really wearing on me. Tapping the chest, especially where? Where is it getting it to you? Is it feeling confined? Is it being around the same people or person? Is it being alone? Maybe you're afraid of going outside. Tapping the front of the ribs. I accept this part that's really grating on my nerves. Focus in on that for another minute and breathe. Tapping the side of the ribs. It's okay for me to feel frustrated, agitated, and unsure. Tap the inside of the wrist. I love and respect myself, even if part of me chronically worries or feels stressed. Tap the side of the thumb. I give myself the love and attention I need right now. Tapping the index finger, big soft breath. Open your heart with as much tenderness as you can, as much compassion as you can, to this part of you that may feel pretty helpless right now, might even feel a little like a child inside. Tap the middle finger. I accept the part of me that feels really vulnerable and helpless. Tapping the bottom of the 4th finger. This vulnerable, helpless feeling. Tapping your little finger. I'm open to loving and forgiving myself, even if I continue to feel anxious, overwhelmed, or shut down. Tap the side of the hand. I accept the part of me that feels spaced out, checked out, and shut down. Tapping the top of the head. So just notice we all have different ways of processing, especially when there's so much unknown. Some of us get really frantic and move very quickly and sporadically. Some of us move very slowly, get very tired, shut down, tap the eyebrows. Some of us go into denial. Some of us get angry. What has your coping strategy been that you're willing to lovingly call out right now? And maybe you've cycled through several of these. Tapping under the nose. Tapping under the lips. So what are the survival strategies you noticed were in play for you? Tap the chest and describe one or more that you noticed yourself cycling through in the last week or two. For example, I found myself not wanting to get dressed. I want to lay in bed. I want to check out. Having a hard time keeping track of time. Tapping the front of the ribs. I love and accept this part of myself that is trying to protect me from a changing reality. Tap the side of the ribs. This surprising new twist, right? Tapping the inside of the wrist. I give myself permission to recover my energy, to regroup, to refocus. Tap the side of the thumb, to come back into presence and peace. Tapping the index finger. I'm allowing myself to come back into center. Big deep breath. Tapping the middle finger. So I want to ask you, what are you listening to? What are you listening to with your ears? Are you listening to music that has kind of sad, weird lyrics about broken hearts? Are you listening to the news? Are you listening to people fighting in the other room? Are you listening to uplifting music? What are you listening to? What are you taking in? I know that my screen time has been way up in the last few weeks. And I notice that not all of it is serving me. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. I accept the part of me that's been listening to too much what? What have you been listening to? Tap the little finger. And how would shifting what you're listening to make you feel if you brought in something that was more joyous, more positive, maybe even funny or fun? Tap the side of the hand. So one of your strongest medicines right now to get through this turmoil is to lighten up. It's dark enough out there. And some of us feel like if we just study the darkness, that we'll have a better grip on it and we'll be more prepared, and then we can take better care of ourselves or each other. And to a limited extent, that's true. But if that's the only thing we're filling our consciousness with, then we're actually doing a disservice to our souls, our hearts, and even the conversation. If you're trapped in a house with someone and you've only got one thing going into your head, guess what's going to be coming out of your mouth? Just that. So if you can decide like, oh, I'm going to bring variety to myself, other things besides this terrible pandemic, and then I'm going to bring variety to those around me, right? Because how we interact with each other is really important right now, whether that's on social media or in person. Tapping the top of the head. I'm allowing myself to open up and uplift myself with what I'm listening to. Right? Because what we listen to sort of becomes the mantra in our head. Tap the eyebrows. I give myself permission, tap the temples, to bring a little more what? What would you like to bring a little more of into your life? Is it prayer? Is it play? Is it laughter? Tap the cheeks. Tapping under the nose. Maybe it's listening to music. How many of you have uplifting music in your life? Or remembered the power of music? I bet some of you have some amazing music that have really gotten you through some tough times or taken you on a beautiful journey. But sometimes we forget to use it, right? Tap the front of the ribs. I'm allowing myself to stay balanced or to come back into balance using the tools and resources I have. Tapping the side of the ribs. How many of you have taken a hot bath lately? Maybe you have some Epsom salts. Maybe you have some candles. Maybe you even have a little bubble bath. Tap the inside of the wrist. Is it okay to take time to take care of yourself? I know that for myself, sometimes I've even forgotten to shower. I saw someone post on Facebook, a friend of mine today, saying, I showered today. I remembered. And I thought, wow, yeah. Tap the side of the thumb. But all these little acts of self-care, getting outside, going on a walk, stretching, dancing, meditating, praying, making art, having uplifting conversations, all of these things are actually an act of service. Each of us are responsible for holding our vibrations, especially in a big storm like this. And even if we're really, really strong, usually in our normal settings, we might find ourselves forgetting these tiny acts of self-care and how it ripples out into the whole. So back to the middle finger, here we go. I'm allowing myself to take responsibility for taking better care of me, which takes better care of we. What do I mean by that? Well, we all affect each other, and we're getting that lesson very clearly right now. We affect each other emotionally, we affect each other vibrationally, we affect each other physically. We affect each other spiritually. And as more and more of us recognize this, we take better responsibility for what we're broadcasting, right? Tap the side of the hand. I give myself permission to release the stress and fear inside me. Especially about what? What are you still holding on to? Say it out, tapping the top of the head. Allowing me to take responsibility for my attitude. Tap the eyebrows. Tapping the temples. I'm giving myself permission to be part of the solution, tapping the cheeks. To give love, tapping under the nose. To give love to myself first. So tap the chest and just let's talk about that for a minute. So I noticed the other day that I had stopped taking such good care of myself. And it was much harder for me to give love or compassion or to be flexible or gentle to other people because my self-care was low. And I felt grumpy. I felt snappy. But I noticed that when I remedied that, I went outside, I laid under a tree, I just stared up at the sky. I noticed the flowers that were growing in the grass. I saw 2 butterflies. I listened to the birds. I stretched on my yoga mat and just paid attention to what was in front of me. And when I came back in, I felt much more connected to the people in my environment, much more capable. So, how are you loving you right now? And how can you take better care of that sweet heart that has been through so much? If you were the person that you loved the very most in this world, what would you do for that person starting tomorrow? Would you read them bedtime stories? Would you take them on a walk? Would you make them more nutritious food? Would you turn off the news and turn on some dance music? Tapping the front of the ribs. I give myself permission to love myself more deeply. Tap the side of the ribs. And to show up for myself. Tapping the inside of the wrist. To really show up for myself. Tap the side of the thumb. This gives me permission to show up better for others. It gives me the strength to show up for others in a different way. Tap the index finger. So just think about that. Maybe you are home alone. Maybe you have a lover or a spouse or children or roommates or friends who are counting on you. And when you show up in a loving way, they blossom too, right? Tap the middle finger. So I'm going to challenge you to show up with more love and more care, which might include spending more time tapping. I know that I wasn't doing enough tapping last week. I got sucked into the swirl. And I needed to reach out and say hey to some friends to remind me of what I already knew. Tap the bottom of the 4th finger. And we're all that person for someone, aren't we? Tapping the little finger, I give myself permission to remember what I know works for me. Tap the side of the hand. So let's pause here. Let's check in the chat. I forgot to ask you at the beginning of the session to assess the amount of discomfort that you were in, but you can do that now. You can say, yeah, I came in feeling pretty tired or upset at a level 8, a level 10, whatever that was, and here's what I feel now. What number would you give your level of stress? Hopefully it's coming down. And after you put that in the chat, I'd also like you to put in the chat what are some things that you may have forgotten to do, that you're remembering to do, that you know would increase your vitality and your joy. Things that would give you more energy, more peace, more stability. Let's make sure that the chat is on, Magnus. Big deep breath And if you're doing this video on replay, write those things down. And I'm going to peek into the chat while you're chatting in. Jordan says, when I started, I was exhausted from spinning so much. That was a 7 or an 8. Now it's a 4 or a 5. Congratulations, Jordan. And we're only half an hour into this. Christina said a 10 or a 9, livid, furious. Not strong enough. Sorry, it's scrolling so quickly. And now she's saying, I need to dance and stand outside more. And feel the sun on your face. It helps so much. Shoda says, I'm more aware of my emotion and it feels like I'm down to a 2. I'm working on better food, not skipping meditation, going outdoors, and singing with the trees and the creek and the earth. All great ideas. Danielle says a 9 to a 2. I did some magic card reads and it made me so happy. I need to do more of that all of the time. Robin says a 2 to a 0. Calling friends would be helpful. Right. Josephine says a 9 down to a 6. I was sad, been feeling a lot of grief about life as we knew it going away. Understandable. Serena says massage my own body. That is a very good idea. I noticed that today when I was preparing for Circle, just getting dressed up makes me feel a lot better. It's amazing how a little lipstick can change my mood. I might just have dress-up parties and walk around the house. Wave to people on my porch all dressed up. All right. I'm going to read a couple more of these. Sorry if I don't read yours. Julie says, I was a 7, now at 3. My motivation's been shot, but I look forward to playing more music and making more art. Shelley says an 8 down to a 6. Need less news, more music and humor, nature, creativity, and play. Trish says a 9 down to a 3. Feeling blood flow now, spacious, drumming, singing it out, chanting, listening to birds and crickets. Shoda says, I might actually play the piano. Great. So I will get back and read all of these, but we're going to keep going. Ruth says, I noticed your lipstick. It made me feel happier. I know, right? Massaging the front of the chest. I give myself permission to tune into what makes me happy. Tapping the eyebrows, including, and then say those things that maybe you were forgetting to do. Big deep breath. And tapping the cheeks. Even if part of me thinks of these things as a luxury, tapping under the nose, another part is remembering that it's my responsibility, tapping under the lips, to maintain a good attitude, to maintain my vibration, tapping the chest. I'm helping hold the field right now. My field and the field of those around me. Tapping the front of the ribs. I give myself permission to take even better care of myself. Tap the side of the ribs. So I want to remind everyone what 20 minutes of exercise does. If you find yourself glued to a chair all day, or laying on your couch or your bed all day, or stuck to your computer all day, you might notice that you don't feel as good as if you stretch and move your muscles for about 20 minutes a day. Tap this side of the thumb. I give myself permission to remember what brings me back to life. Tapping the index finger, especially now, right? So if you want to push back on all of the fear and all the virus and all that stuff, the way you push back is by becoming very vital, joyous, and alive. Tap the middle finger, and even if you don't feel like doing it at first, which is really challenging when we're out of the habit. So let's tap on that for a minute, because there's always that like hump that we have to get over. Even though I haven't been feeling like, and then say what that happy thing is that you know you've been neglecting to do. Exercising, for example, tapping the bottom of the fourth finger. Even though I haven't been feeling like exercising, I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tap the little finger. I accept the part of me that got out of the habit. Tap the side of the hand of doing, and then say what your favorite exercise is. Maybe it's walking or running or yoga or dancing. I give myself permission, tapping the top of the head, to come back into that habit. Tapping the eyebrows. This is actually a community service. Tapping the temples. Me taking care of my body. Tapping the cheeks. Tapping under the nose. It uplifts me. Tapping under the lips. And everyone I'm connected to. Tapping the chest. Let's do it again, and this time fill in the blank. Maybe exercise isn't a problem for you, but maybe you need to spend a little time in your artistic self, and not just in your linear brain, but in your more spacious, creative brain. Even though, tap the front of the ribs, I've fallen out of the habit of, and say what that is for you. Tapping the side of the ribs. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tapping the inside of the wrist. And gently coming back into alignment with this life-enhancing practice. Tap the side of the thumb. It's okay to feel good right now. Tap the index finger. It's necessary for us to feel good right now. Tap the middle finger. Even if I feel guilty for feeling good and taking great care of myself, because so many people can't, so many people are suffering. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. I love and accept myself. Tap the little finger. I allow myself to emanate joy and peace and friendliness. Tap the side of the hand. To bring love into the conversation and gratitude. Tapping the top of the head. Okay, we're going to practice. Here we go. I want you to say 5 nice things about yourself to yourself out loud right now. You're going to compliment yourself, and it's going to feel kind of awkward for most people and a little ridiculous, especially for me. Here we go. On your mark, get set, go. 5 good things about you using your first name. So, for example, Sonya, I really like your hair tonight. Here we go. 5 nice things about you. Keep tapping while you're talking, tapping the eyebrows. Keep going, tapping the temples. Tapping the cheeks. And as you tap under the nose, I want you to acknowledge 2 or 3 things that you've done in the last couple of days that you would like some acknowledgement for. Maybe you want that acknowledgement from someone else, but I want you to give it to yourself. It could be something simple like, I acknowledge that you put the dishes away. I acknowledge that you did your laundry. Tapping the front of the ribs. I give myself permission to acknowledge myself for the little things each day. Tap the side of the ribs. So what is that going to sound like? That's going to sound like you talking to yourself as you walk around the house. Good job getting dressed. Tap the inside of the wrist. Saying, good job, self. You made it to your appointment. Tap the side of the thumb. I give myself permission to encourage myself. Tap the index finger to really learn to love myself. Tap the middle finger. So let's think about that as we tune in. What would it be like if part of this big reset that we're going through is a huge lesson in love, starting from one heart moving out to the rest. If I love myself, then I will stand up and do what is right and good for myself and others, right? If I love myself, I'm going to work to create a world that I love to live in, because I wouldn't want to live in a world that I was helping destroy. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. So when we love ourselves, as silly and uncomfortable and trivial as it seems, it actually means that we respect ourselves enough to stand up and give our gifts, to try and learn difficult things, to fail and be awkward and try it again and again until we get somewhere. Tap the little finger. I'm giving myself the possibility. Repeat after me. I'm giving myself the possibility of tuning in. Tap the side of the hand. Reimagining my life. Tap the top of the head. Encouraging myself to stretch and grow. Even if that just means learning to love myself. Tap the eyebrows. I give myself permission, tap the temples, to create a healthy routine for myself. Tap the cheeks. So I want you to take 1 minute and describe what a healthy routine would be for you. It could be very simple. It could be getting up and praying in the morning, or meditating, or stretching, going on a walk around the block. Listing your gratitude before your head's off your pillow. Tap the chest. 1 minute. New healthy routine might look like what? Tapping the front of the ribs. And just accepting any little twinges of resistance, any little twinges of doubt that you're going to follow through. Tap the side of the ribs. Just accepting that part of us that feels stubborn, set in our ways, unwilling, even resigned. Tap the inside of the wrist. I give myself permission to change my little world. Tap the side of the thumb. In this little way. Tap the index finger. This lightens the load. Tap the middle finger. It brightens my day. Tap the bottom fourth finger. I give myself permission to change my little world. Tap the little finger. To lighten the load. Tap the side of the hand. To keep myself uplifted, connected to love. Tapping the top of the head. This helps the collective grow and learn about love. Tapping the eyebrows. This helps the collective know. Tapping the temples. To remember what's important. Tapping the cheeks. Just dropping down to the chest for a second and listening again. So what is the collective made of? This big collective that's falling apart. This big collective that needs to grow and learn and make things better for us. This collective is made of people, right? People make the planet. So suddenly all the people are being faced with their own mortality, being faced with the possibility of losing someone they love, being faced with the possibility of losing their own life. And suddenly everything is brought into focus. What really matters? What would happen if we built a life on those values? After we're done feeling afraid and complaining and feeling bored and agitated and sad and frustrated, and we said, okay, none of us live forever. All of us can do something. And if I lift my little corner of the blanket and you lift your little corner of the blanket, and we each just take responsibility for our own life, our own vibe, our own thoughts, our own choices, our own actions, even though it's just one person taking charge of one person, it changes everything. We are so powerful. And the more we connect with this as a whole and share that with each other by example, the faster this process will go. So tapping the front of the ribs as we wind this down, knowing that it's hard for us to change sometimes, especially when things feel overwhelming. But I notice that when I see someone else doing it, I'm more inspired to do it myself. And I notice that when I take initiative, it inspires other people. It feels good to be led by somebody who's holding a good idea, whether that be, hey, let's go for a run, or let's, change up the room and decorate and clean, whatever it is. Tap the inside of the wrist, and it also feels good to take initiative. Taking charge of the things we can control. Tap the side of the thumb. What are you committing to do before the next time we see each other that you know will make a positive difference in your home, in your body, in your life, or in your relationships? Put that in the chat. What are you committing to do that will be good for you and you know will have a positive effect on the people and space around you? And Magnus, let's make sure the chat is turned on. And for those of you watching on replay, I want you to write that down. Tape that commitment to your fridge. Put it on your bathroom mirror and bring your loving, maybe slightly resistant, maybe slightly grumpy self this gift. Danielle says, cardio workout, right? I have an exercise bike gathering dust in the corner, y'all. Maybe I could get on that thing. Stretching each morning, says Lowest. Angelica says, file my taxes. Shoda says, My schedule includes outdoors work, house cleaning, people connecting, writing, daily exercise, and some more. Alexandra says, writing a list of things I'm grateful for daily, right? What a great way to stay on top of your attitude and to choose your state, your emotional state. Christina says, work through my anger. Going to bed before midnight, says Josephine. Julie S. says, being happier. Ursula says, put together a webinar for clients. Getting used to being a leader and an expert in my field. Treva says, going to commit to 15 minutes per day to ground myself through gardening. Marianne says, healthy routine, meditation, balance, stress, stretching, surrender, faith. We'll go outside and walk every day, says Francine. Mateo says, work in my garden. Julie says, being happier, right? It is a choice, y'all. There are things that we react to, but we also can choose our reaction, especially if we know tapping. So, couple of quick things I want you to know before we do a final tap. One is I dropped the price for the World Tapping Circle membership. It's down to $19 a month. I did that because I know a lot of people are struggling right now. I want to encourage you to stay a member of Circle. I want to encourage you to invite others. If they can't afford a membership, we've also made it for free. And we put some donation buttons up so that we can keep this circle going and growing through especially these challenging times. I'm doing the very best I can to keep people paid and to have what I need to be able to broadcast this to you each week and to keep the quality that we have. So, but I want you to know that nobody will be turned away due to lack of funds. This circle can hold 10,000 people at once. We built it like a big ark, and we built it just on time for the rain. So please, send out the World Tapping Circle link. It's just worldtappingcircle.com. It says at the bottom that you can come for free. There are no strings attached. No one's going to get auto-charged. And if you can afford a membership, that is a huge win for you and for me and for us. And we're also going to send you the chakra sweep if you haven't already done it. And it's 7 2-hour workshops going through each chakra, tapping on chakra-related issues. It's very powerful, and that is my thank you gift for being able to help support us. So tapping all over the body, saying 5 more great things about you to you, as if you were your very best friend. Tapping all over the body, thanking yourself for showing up again and again, for bringing yourself here, for bringing yourself back into harmony. As we free ourselves, the world will follow. I love you all so much. I will see you next time in the circle, and I'm going to leave you with a song called Here in the Now, and we'll put that link in the chat so you can find it on Spotify. Thank you. I love you.
Here in the now, I am hearing the now as I listen, and I listen to the sound that grows on up from the ground. Can you hear now? In the here and now.